Hi, Govindh here. Before we dive in, I want to let you know that you're listening to a special edition of Paper Napkin Wisdom, the Freedom Framework series built around a new book by Michael Walsh. In this series, Michael and I explore what it really takes to build a business that works for you, not the other way around. We're talking about freedom in your business, freedom from your business, and freedom because of your business. We'll talk about what each of those things mean. Each episode brings you tools, insights, and in-depth conversation between Michael and I about how to bring this kind of freedom into your life. If you're ready to design a business that you don't need to escape from, you're in the right place. Listen in.
Welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom, where we share pearls of wisdom shared by some of the world's top entrepreneurs, leaders, and difference makers. Here's your host, Govindh Jayaraman.
Hi, I'm Govindh Jayaraman, and this is Paper Napkin Wisdom, episode 283. Today, we're stepping in to part 15, the penultimate episode of our Freedom series with Michael Walsh. Over this journey, Michael has helped us see the hidden danger zones that every growing business passes through. He's revealed the challenges that sit quietly between milestones, the friction that leaders don't always see until it's too late. And in this episode, we're talking about something that every entrepreneur faces, but never at the time they expect. What happens when the unexpected shows up at your door? How do you lead when the timing throws you off balance? And most importantly, how do you build freedom through it all? And that's where today's conversation goes. Michael prepares a shift in perspective that can change the way you prepare, adapt, and ultimately thrive. As always, I want to hear what resonates with you most. Grab a napkin, jot down your insight, and share it using the hashtag #PaperNapkinWisdom, because that's how we turn small ideas into big results. Let's dive in. Michael Walsh, welcome back to Paper Napkin Wisdom. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Well, thanks for having me here. You keep putting up with me. This is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's been, no, I'd say the same thing. This has been a really fun journey. The journey has been really talking about how organizations can deal with the 4 hidden danger zones as they grow, right? The danger zones that exist between certain revenue targets as we go from 1 million to 20 million. And then really that the danger zones relates to us outstripping our structures related to our people, how we support our people, how we grow our people, and how they grow themselves. And what's the focus of all this? What's the point? Well, the point is freedom. The point is most business owners, most entrepreneurs want freedom in their business to do the things they want to do, freedom from their business so that they can take vacation, because those are kind of swell, and freedom because of the business to live a lifestyle or to enjoy a lifestyle or provide for their family in a way that they think is reasonable. So in order to do those things, the freedom framework that you've been explaining to us is a really, I think, groundbreaking template to help articulate all of these things. Last time we talked about the tough part about growing managers, growing leadership within your organization, and really it doesn't have anything to do with the fun parts, which are the vision and mission and creating company culture and all those kinds of things, but it's actually supporting managers in doing their jobs and completing their roles as it relates to supporting their people, but also getting results. But in addition to that, developing existing and emerging leadership within your organization through the managers. Today, we're talking about preparing for unexpected change. Isn't all change somewhat unexpected? At least the timing of it in some ways.
Sure. Well, I don't know. You can plan for change.
So how do you prepare for unexpected change, though? I mean, because there's a plan, and then in your plan, you plan for all the known things, right?
Well, here's the thing. Most people, when they think of preparing for unexpected change, they think of predicting unexpected change. And here's the news. You cannot predict unexpected change, because by its nature and its label, the change is unexpected. So if you could predict it, it's no longer unexpected change.
Absolutely.
Okay. But the question I have is, do I need to be able to predict unexpected change? The short answer is no, I don't actually. I don't need to do that. And people say, well, if you don't predict unexpected change, then aren't you just going to get walloped with it? And it's like,
Mm.
no, you don't have to. Some people could, but you don't have to get walloped by it just because you couldn't predict it. I had to laugh because I heard somebody say that Bill Gates predicted 13 of the last 4 recessions. So,
You did the last one. That's great.
he's gone. The sky's always falling. He's, well, what about this? What about that? Oh. I thought that was kind of cute. Here's the thing. I don't worry about what the unexpected change is. Because the truth is, that's a mug's game. That's like, go to Vegas and say, what are the dice going to come up as? You're never going to get it right. In fact, the house lines it up so that you don't get it right. Casinos making a lot of money based on that premise. What you have to do, instead of looking at that, you just say, what are the consequences of change? What are the categories of consequences of change? And so really, as far as I can tell, there's really only 3 consequences. Either you're better off, you're no better but no worse, or you're worse off. And if you're better off, that's cool, but it could be unexpected that you're better off. I mean, I've seen people that get a major contract, $5 million company gets a $3 million contract, and they're like, well, can you take it? Well, the two owners look at each other and they go, can we take it? And they're like, nah, in your life, we're going to, and they're like, of course we can take it. Then they go for it. And sure enough, they grow their capabilities to deal with it.
But wait a minute.
Yeah.
I really want to slow down because you did something really quick. You said you didn't worry about what the unexpected change is, which is like turning off that prediction engine. You don't need to predict it.
Nope.
What you said instead is the categories of consequences. And that was, I think, a really important term. And on the napkin, you've got consequences, better, same, worse. And I like this idea of the categories of consequences, because really, when you chunk them up, right, when you put them into bigger groups, it really does only come down to 3 things. Like, yeah, unexpected stuff's going to happen, but what are the ultimate categories of consequences? I mean, like, if you chunk up the consequences, is it going to leave us better off, about the same, or worse? Right? And that's really all that could possibly happen. And if you're prepared for that, then it doesn't matter, really.
Well,
sort of.
Here's what I look at. If I'm going to be for a change that would potentially leave me better off, there's a number of different changes that could leave me better off, many of which would be unexpected. But what I need to prepare for those unexpected positive changes, really comes down to 2 things. I need depth in my human resources. I need depth with my people, whether it's have my people cross-trained or have access to different contractors that I could tap. Let's say I get that new big contract. I need to find a way to deliver it. So if the better equipped I am in terms of my ability to actually, have other resources at my fingertips, the better I'll do.
And it's really simple, right?
It really is that simple.
Yeah, no, it's really simple, because if you're better off, so consequences are better. So again, category of consequences, you chunk it up to better, you're better off. What does that mean? Probably means you're selling a lot more. If you're selling a lot more, you need to deliver a lot. You need to deliver more results. If you need to deliver more results, you need a deeper bench. You need more people.
Correct. And then there's one other thing that I need.
You absolutely need the second thing.
Yeah, and that's capital. I need to make sure that I have an adequate opportunity fund, because even as you grow, growth eats cash. Quite often you get paid 60 or 90 days later rather than in advance, but I need to pay my people along the way. So I could get this major contract, which is really cool. But if I can't navigate my way from here to the first payment, I have a problem. And so sometimes you can get a deposit from, these types of larger contracts. Not all times can you do that. And so I'm in a situation where if I've got depth in my financial resources, then and I've got access to people and, resources that way, then I'm actually in really good shape. There was one client that we had that you know, uh, these guys did infrastructure development. So they'll actually do subdivisions, okay, within a city. And basically the long and the short of it is they had such a strong relationship with the developers that the developers would come to this company and say, you can have all my stuff, I don't care. And they're like, no, I'm not going to take all your stuff. They would never take more than 80% of any individual stuff. So two reasons for that. One, if you take it all and you make a mistake, now they have to go find somebody else and they'll dump you and take it all. I mean, that does happen from time to time with any company. I don't care how good you are. The other side of it is if I take all of it, there's nobody left in the market.
Yeah.
So if I only take 80%, there's other small players. And if I get myself short or we have an issue or we get this really cool opportunity or whatever, I now have access to resources that I wouldn't otherwise have access to because it wouldn't be in the marketplace. So by actually just taking 80% and maintaining relationships with the different smaller contractors without getting in their way, and they don't get in our way because we bid on different types of contracts than the little guys will, then they're in a situation where they actually maintained enough of a resource pool that they were actually in pretty good shape. And anytime they got like this unusually large thing when there was a surge in the economy or something, then they were in a situation that they could take care of it. And the people were happy to work with them because they knew that, this company was a very, very generous, friendly competitor.
Yeah. And
So
that's
actually made
really,
it work.
yeah. And that's such a important to think about. So again, what's really neat about this is we're talking about preparing for unexpected change and in a better consequence, keeping this bench, this virtual bench, which is really out of pocket thinking. I mean, I was doing a strategic planning session and I was talking about a virtual bench and how important it was to develop this, and you have to be intentional. The entire leadership team has to be intentional about having a leadership, like a virtual bench, and thinking out of the box about what that means. And eventually they came to a similar place where they started thinking about it as like win-win integrated form with competitors. I went, that's what I'm talking about. Now we're cooking with oil because that's a different way of looking at the market.
Yeah, and I want to kind of I know this will surprise you, but I want to take a step back. Okay.
Really? This is the first time for everything, Michael. Good that you practiced that.
There we go. We're talking about the freedom framework. We're talking about how to build an intelligent ecosystem using 21st century technology in terms of supporting people and different things like that to actually, use this mechanism really strategically to support increased profits, stronger people, stronger teams, all that kind of stuff. Why are we talking about unexpected change in the first place? Well, the reason is because to make all those changes that we've been spending all these different episodes on, it takes time and it takes habit development. And so the habits that we had before, these are new habits for people. And the truth is that just because you want to develop a new habit doesn't mean that there are not going to be stresses on your business. And the first time you get a major stress on your business, you're actually going to say, forget those habits. Let's just do this because this has got all our bandwidth. And if I'm a little $5 million company and I get a $3 million contract, do you really think I'm going to sit there and do habit development? Or am I going to go do what I can to sort of scramble things together to make sure that I've got what I need for the $8 million new found business so that I can add that extra 3 from that contract? And so
it's not even that. Like half the entrepreneurs out there don't even do that. They do, I'm going to go into shell protection mode and start moving shells around. You start moving resources around like it's a game just to survive another day.
But with that going, though, what happens is any habits you intended on building, they go out the window.
Gone.
So the whole idea is if I can actually take some time to develop these networks in advance and, of possible pools of contractors or different people, and then I also quietly build up a little opportunity fund, I call it. I'm in a situation where I'm armed when those big things happen, and I don't have to scuttle my plans for hiring smart and rethinking my core and making sure that I'm growing my people and developing the teams and growing my managers and developing my leaders. All the other stuff we talked about doesn't have to go, the way of the dodo bird, because I'm actually prepared for these changes, and they don't just pull me away from what I'm trying to do to create a level of long-term sustainability and increase freedom.
But the other part of it is, so it doesn't pull you away from developing long-term sustainability. It is actually a stone in the pathway to long-term financial stability, right? You're actually, it's not a different habit. It's the same thing.
Correct. And it's not one that people think of.
No, it's
risk
not.
Managing against when life intervenes, you don't think of that because we always think the best of everything. We know that there's going to be things that work and there's going to be things that don't work. And so when things that work, we're all happy. And then something doesn't work and we get all upset. Like, right. Okay, then. You knew there was going to be things that didn't work. You didn't plan for the thing. Yeah, but I didn't think it was going to happen to me.
Yeah. And
okay.
Again, you're using different words. Plan and prepare are different things.
Yes.
Preparing is something you absolutely can do without a plan.
Correct. Right. And it's just quietly building out my human resources, again, this is if things get better, and also building this opportunity fund, again, for the event that things get better. But of course, that's not the only category.
No, there's another category.
Okay.
The other category is same.
Same. So let's look at the same. What would be an example of same? We talked about this nice contract. An example of the same would be, I'm at 12 million in revenue. I've outstripped the utility of my existing software, and I need to go to an enterprise-wide system. And so it's going to cost me in the short term, but I'll eventually make it back up. But I'm really, at the end of the day, I'm no better off, but I'm really not any worse off. But there's this major change that I've actually got to go through. Didn't expect myself not to be able to continue to use the software program that I put in at 6 million, because that's what the last time we had to change it. And now at 12, I'm like, this thing's expensive, but at the same time, it's like we really need the capabilities. We really have outgrown the capabilities of the last software program. So am I going to be better off? Not. Sure, I'll have better metrics, but it's not like my revenue is going to skyrocket. And am I going to be worse off? No, because eventually it'll pay for itself as well. We'll find that there's economies of scale with it, and we'll be fine. And it's an unexpected change that will have an impact on my, let's call it a distraction factor that impacts my bandwidth.
And this is the important thing. A lot of people don't understand when we're thinking about unexpected change. Unexpected change doesn't necessarily mean, so this idea of sameness doesn't mean that, we didn't grow. That's just one factor in the equation.
Right.
There's a lot of other things going on in the organization that could be a change that's not going to change the size of the business necessarily, but there are consequences. There's things happening in the organization. So, all right, that's a great example. So let's play that.
So there's two things that I would need there. Okay. Mm-hmm. The first thing would, if things are going to be different, it pulls that bandwidth. So what I need depth of people. So
why do I need depth of people?
Well, for example, cross-training of my existing people. Okay, is one aspect.
So let's tease out that example. I need a new accounting system because I've outstripped that structure as we've grown. And by the way, like, spoiler alert for people who are growing, somewhere between 6 and 15, you're gonna need a new system. Like, it's it's gonna happen.
Exactly. Between 5 and 20, people usually go through. There's the one they have, and then they actually go through 2 more systems between 5 and 20. In fact, there's one client that we're working with right now. They've been 5 million for 3 or 4 years. And over this past year, we've been starting to do some work with them, and they're probably going to hit somewhere between 8 and 10 this year. And what we're doing is, instead of changing twice, we're actually looking at sort of swallowing it and changing once, and looking at how to, what system are they going to need between 20 and 40 million, because they can see it coming. right now they're only in one state, and they can see, and we're adding locations in that state, but they can also see themselves going to different states. In fact, in the neighboring states, around them, there's a number of different opportunities that they've already got available to them that people have been asking them to deal with. So in their case, it's like we're trying to do it once instead of twice, but everybody has to change the accounting system. QuickBooks will not carry you at 20 million. They will carry you at 12 million. In fact, it starts to break somewhere between 5 and 8 million.
Yeah, I mean, people push it to 15 and to their own detriment because they end up.
They do, but what happens is they don't get access to numbers that allow them to maintain the profitability.
Well, but this is the thing. It's like they can't run the real numbers that they need to run.
Correct.
They end up running a third-party system on top of the QuickBooks, and if you're going to do that, might as well just change the system. Like, it just might as well just change it.
Yeah.
So the
So when I say
again, why do we need a depth of people? Why do we need a depth of people if we're cross-training?
Well, you need, because there's more to do.
Right.
And it's not like you got a bunch of extra money hanging around. Okay.
No, you have the same.
Now, the other thing that I've found, and now this is just anecdotal, it's not empirical, but what I've found is over the last, I've been doing this for 30 years now. And over the 30-year period, what I've found is every single time somebody adds an ERP system, and it's enterprise resource planning, or they call it different, an enterprise-wide system that includes things like your accounting, includes CRM, customer database, customer relationship system is what, or customer relationship management system is what CRM stands for. And there's a bunch of different modules that can be plugged into this thing to really support more than just the financial accounting. It actually supports management accounting as well, and really supporting the growth of teams and a bunch of fiscal aspects. Every single time I've seen a company try to do this without having an external person manage it. In other words, if the existing controller or director of finance or CFO manages it, my experience has been that the turnover of that person in that role has been 100%. And
Right.
every time I've seen them bring in an external person to deal with it directly, in addition to whatever the team is doing, the turnover rate for the person that had started there before they brought in the extra person the turnover rate's been 0%. And I've seen maybe 40 or 50 of them.
Yeah.
So
and
is it an absolute? Well, in my experience, it has been, and you and I both know it. It's not going to be if you go through enough people, but there's enough people to say that that's a big risk if you try to do it without additional.
Yeah, and I've seen it where it's not, like where they've lost, but it had nothing to do with this. It had something to do with something else, right? Yeah. So, but you're absolutely right, because this can be a very daunting task. Like, switching systems is a hugely daunting task, and without support, without having someone to go to, without an expert to lean on, it becomes challenging. So that's what you're talking about, the depth of people resources. Let's talk about the depth of financial resources. Well, these systems are not free.
Yeah, they cost money. Now you'll eventually get it back, but they cost money. So if I need the same two things, whether I'm better off or the same, I need, in addition to the depth of people, what if I actually have some extra money hanging around? I'm in a situation where it actually makes everything go so much smoother, and it doesn't take a toll on the current operations. See, too often what happens is if people don't have the extra financial depth, what they end up doing is they end up robbing Peter to pay Paul, and they take it out of their operations. And what happens is that if you get anything else that's unexpected, it really upsets the apple cart, and it actually threatens to put the business at risk. Whereas if I've got extra funds that I've quietly built over a period of time, and you don't need to put that much away to actually have it add up over a period of time. But if I don't have it, I could be in trouble. But if I do have it, I could actually handle this stuff without really losing any sleep. And then I just replace it as I continue to grow, as far as that's concerned. So it really does help when there's the types of changes that don't leave me net better off, but don't really leave me net worse off. I still need the human resources. I still need the money, because the money actually helps grease the wheels so that I can actually do this whole thing more smoothly, and I can get back to the job at hand, which is growing my business in support of whatever my goals and commitments are in life.
That's great. Okay, now this is the part that no one wants to talk about, but we're going to talk about the category of consequence that leaves us worse off, and we can imagine a lot of those. Those are easy to imagine.
Yeah, I mean, your sales drop. There's people leave to open their own show. Two of your top people, they kind of,
Political uncertainty, economic uncertainty,
well, there's all those,
both
but
of them at the same time.
let's go back to 9/11.
Right.
Okay, remember the company that does the Swiss Army knife?
Yeah.
Guess what happened when 9/11 occurred?
Their consequences got better.
Well, they did, except here's what happened. The short term is you're no longer allowed to have a pocket knife in your pocket when you get on.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
what happens is that they pretty much lost most of their traveling clients. Their sales plummeted.
Well, they lost all of their traveling clients. Yeah.
Well, they did. They did lose all the traveling clients. And the other side of that, though, was they were financially backstopped. And so they started looking at different things, and they got into luggage and a bunch of other stuff. And frankly, I think they had 2 quarters that were bad, and then it started to jump again. Now, don't quote me on that one because this is way too far back, and I just can't. I'm trying to go off memory, and it's probably wrong.
No, but it was a remarkable turnaround because
It was.
they said that travel related sales represented a super majority of their revenue on an
Yeah.
annual basis, and then they joked that in the next year it did too, but it totally different, right?
Yeah.
Totally different. They stayed in their vertical,
Yep.
but they totally pivoted away from knives to a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. And in order to do that, obviously, you need you need the people to be able to support that. Now, whether it's that or whether it's somebody leaving, like if I have key people leaving, cross-trained people and depth of resources allows me to backstop for that. And having people cross-train may, if even if I'm dealing with layoffs or something, I'm in a situation where I can afford to not lose even more if I've got my people cross-trained.
Right.
And the other side of it is if I've cross-trained my people and I've really taken care of them as I've gone, even if somebody does get laid off or furloughed or whatever, they're in a situation where they're in a better shape in terms of their own training. It's easier for them to get another position. So if it ever happens that that I can be in a situation to take them back, I can. Or at least they land in stronger shape, which helps everybody and actually keeps the relationship stronger as far as that's concerned. And obviously, if my revenues have gone down or I take a hit or attack that leaves me worse off, I'm in a situation where obviously the financial resources, if I have them, really help me out. So whether I'm potentially better off, whether I change but stay the same, or whether I'm worse off, if I actually make sure that I quietly build the financial resources and I'm quietly building the human resources, those two elements allow me from getting sidewinded, or I don't even know if that's a term, but getting this to the point of actually having it harm my business. And the habits that I've been trying to develop with regards to shifting my management perspectives and really supporting the growth of an ecosystem, I can continue to do those. So it actually becomes a functional, powerful series of strategies that are not scuttled by the latest change.
Yeah. Yeah. And, here's the, so the question that I have, I mean,
Sure.
you've got three different consequences: better, same, worse.
Yeah.
And preparing depth of people resources and depth of financial resources are the preparations. But is it the same depth of people resources for the same three consequence chunks? I mean,
well, I can't predict whether it's going to be better, same, or worse. If I actually continue to nurture, relationships with skilled people, and I've got access to contractors, plus I'm training my people at a different level. There's certain things I can do. I can maintain a slightly larger team than I currently need. Okay, because it allows me to cross-train people, and I've got the wiggle room to do that. Now, not a lot of people, but it could be an extra half to 1.5 people, depending on the size of company. If I'm at 10 or 11, I'm only going to have probably an extra half of a person. So in other words, I'm not going to be totally slammed. If I've got 50 people, I might have a couple of people extra. right? If I've got 110, I might have 3 or 4 people extra throughout the organization. So it gives me some stuff. And then, extensive cross training is way easier when I've got a little bit of extra capacity on my hands. So not so much capacity that I'm actually going to lose all my profit. And then if I build that reliable network of qualified contractors and part-time staff, potentially, I'm in a situation that I'm actually in pretty good shape as far as that's concerned. So those are 3 specific things that I can do to actually help this thing, and then
and you can help it regardless of them being better, worse, or same consequences, right? I mean, those things, those levels of preparation with regards to people resources solve all 3 consequence issues.
Correct. They really do. I mean, here's the thing. If I've got a sharp knife available to me, whether I get stranded on a desert island and I need something to actually, make sure that I can peel that fruit so that I can eat it, or whether I need to actually, kill that animal that's about to go get me, or whatever it is, or if I need to cut some branches so that I can actually, let them dry, or I can actually, have shelter and cover myself. There's some basics that get used for a lot of different things. And if I look at how do I tap the people, then I'm in a situation where building those are really important. And with regards to financial reserves, if I just build a quiet sinking fund of a certain percentage of my sales, and the percentage varies with the type of company, I'm in a situation where I actually can afford it. And I combine that with things like getting lines of credit when I don't need them, as opposed to just waiting till the last minute when I need them, because it doesn't cost me anything to hold a line of credit if there's nothing on it.
Yeah, and here's the other spoiler alert for a lot of people out there who are thinking about this right now, and they think that, oh, man, I actually need one, I should go get one. Banks don't like to give them to you when you need them. They like to give them to when you don't need them.
Correct. And so that's the time to get them. And then it's available to you, and here's the best part of it. If you get a line of credit when you don't need it, and then you quietly continue to build a little bit of a sinking fund, you may never need it.
But you've got it.
And you've got it so that you're not ever caught short.
Exactly. What else do we need to cover here? Because this is a really important one, and I don't want anything to be overlooked.
Well, the only thing that I really want to emphasize on this, because it is pretty straightforward, is the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to make sure that you're not distracted as you're evolving an ecosystem, because an ecosystem is a handful. There's lots to do, and there are habits in human behavior that need to be shifted. And if you think you can just do it out of something called willpower or whatever, it's not going to work, because life will intervene. So if I actually take the time to put these couple of pieces in place, they can actually really support me in making the types of strategic changes that I want, and really have the people in my service business be part of that core, because they are anyway. Right. And so but I need to actually redesign my business a little bit and tweak a number of things so that I can actually tap the power of that. Because when you look at that strategically, the consequences are huge. And if I'm fighting fires, it's not going to work. So these are ways to actually keep you from having to fight fires by thinking a little bit of the stuff in advance. And you know what? It only takes a small amount done in advance. At the time, the consequences could be very severe. But if I do a little bit in advance, and a little bit in advance, and a little bit in advance, I'm in a situation where I'm actually in great shape, and I can really develop the ecosystem, and I can gain the types of freedom that I want.
Yeah, and I've been in the situation where you're dealing with the surge of war, right? Like something really bad has happened, and I'm dealing with the consequences of better, same, or worse. Yep. And in those situations, it really becomes not just the frenzy of solving the problem, but the frenzy of solving of the problem, right? Figuring out how to solve it, how to keep it solved, and then survive another day. And your focus at least my focus went way away from 1 year away, way away from 6 months away, and immediately to the next minute, the next day, the next hour, the next, like living literally hour to hour, being grateful for a holiday because at least no one was going to call me that day and I could get a little bit ahead, right? That's the frenzy that comes from not preparing for unexpected change in advance. And it doesn't take a lot to start this process now, right? I mean, if you do a little bit at a time, it doesn't take a lot. If you engage leaders to support this process, it happens even faster.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
First, a huge thank you to Michael Walsh for once again sharing his wisdom in this Freedom Series. Every time he joins us, he brings clarity to what so many entrepreneurs feel but can't always name. Today's conversation left us with some powerful reminders. Change is constant, but the timing is never in our control. Managers are not just implementers, they are the bridge that carries vision to action. Real culture isn't posters on the wall, it's the support systems leaders create for their people. Freedom in business doesn't happen by chance. It's built by intention. Monitoring is as critical as planning because what you measure reveals what's coming next. So let me ask you, how will you prepare for the unexpected in your own business? What's one shift you can make today to build resilience so that freedom isn't lost when change arrives? If this episode sparks something for you, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and share it with someone who needs this message right now. Here's my challenge for you. Grab a napkin and write down the one insight you're taking from this conversation. You probably are thinking about it right now. And share it with the hashtag #PaperNapkinWisdom, because what you do, you're not just writing down an idea, you're sharing and starting a movement. Remember, it's not about predicting the future, it's about preparing yourself, your team, and your business to thrive no matter what shows up. That's how small ideas turn into big results. Make it a great day.